Okay everyone, so welcome back to the afternoon session. So the session is themed as early career session, or we should say future stars. So we hope we'd kickstart this one. Alex talking about holistic engineering energy.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. My name's Alex Woodell. I'm a research fellow at ECS. Perhaps this is at a different scale from some of the projects we've heard about earlier this morning. Typically, the energy harvesting we're talking about is of the order of a few tens of milliwatts at most. So an application of vibration energy harvesting, which is what this project is about, is normally in condition monitoring of pieces of machinery. So the benefit of this technique is that we can power these wireless sensors. So this is sensing the vibration signature of this piece of machinery. We can power it from the vibration of the machinery. So this is a real deployment of a commercial vibration energy harvesting system. It's deployed in the field, and it allows the owners of this piece of machinery to monitor it to make sure nothing's going wrong. So typically you can look at things like bearing failure, shaft imbalance. And the advantage of this system is that it's wireless. It means that it can be left there forever. And you don't need somebody to go around and service this piece of machinery on a regular basis. They can just turn up when they can see something's going wrong. But a limitation of the existing technology is that it only works with fixed frequency pieces of machinery. So this motor is powered from the mains, it works at 50 Hz or 60 Hz. And the vibration energy harvester can only cope with that level of vibration, that frequency of vibration. So something that we've been doing in this project is looking at some real vibration data in some other applications. So we've had an agreement with Red Funnel Ferries to do some testing on their vessels. So we've done some testing on the side of the main engine of their ferry, which runs between Southampton and the Isle of Wight. We've looked at vibration characteristics of car engines. We've also looked at the vibration characteristics of this pump, which is the main district hot water circulation pump, which pumps hot water around the university. So we've now got a quite good database of vibration signatures of different pieces of equipment. We've made that available online, so you can just log onto this website and download sort of long time scale vibration characteristics of various pieces of machinery. So the project is split into three main themes. The first one is to develop the new microgenerators which can cope with various different levels of vibration and various vibration frequencies. We're also looking at the power conditioning electronics which goes after the energy harvester to be able to look at the whole system and realise good levels of efficiency for the complete system. We're also developing some energy harvesting computation circuits, so these are some novel circuits which can work at very low voltages, cope with changing voltage levels and adapt their activity based on how much energy is being harvested. And we've also developed some accelerated simulation techniques. So with harvesting low levels of energy over very long time periods, there's an issue that we have to be able to simulate both the sort of high frequency events of the energy coming in and charging up the supercapacitor, but we also have to simulate the operation of the system over hours or days, because typically it can take several hours to charge up the system and get it to start up. So instead of systems taking days to simulate, now we can simulate complete systems in a matter of minutes on a standard desktop PC. So we're just coming towards the end of the project. We're developing a demonstrator system. So this is an example of the vibration energy harvester, which is going to go onto the side of that ferry engine which we saw before. So to give you an idea of size, this base plate is about 15 centimetres long. We have a vibration energy harvester. This is a beryllium copper beam, and the magnets here form the proof mass at the end of this beam, making it a resonant system. But we can move this tuning magnet backwards and forwards to alter the resonant frequency of the system to work at different frequencies. And we also have an accelerometer to detect what that source vibration level is, and a position sensor so that the system can monitor the position of this tuning magnet. So we're able to tune to different vibration frequencies actively to match the frequency of vibration that the engines were working on. Okay, so that brings me to the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Alex. Next we have Matthew to tell us about development and evaluation of false growth.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I'm here to talk about forest growth SRC, which is a computer-based model to simulate short rotation coppice willow growth, which is a biofuel feedstock, often used in the UK. The model is used to predict optimum sites for willow growth across the UK, and I've applied future scenarios of climate change to the model to see how areas of willow yield will change throughout the UK out to the future. The talk, I'll just, over the next slide, talk about the context and the model evaluation, and the final slide, the UK-wide prediction of SRC willow yield. Okay, so SRC willow, as though we mentioned this earlier, we're working in an experimental commercial field of SRC willow, and this is just to show, this is one field of SRC willow, and it's grown as an establishment year. Sticks of willow are put in the ground, they grow for a year, then they're cut down, and then they grow back as a multi-stemmed bush, typically for 3 years, and they're cut again, and the wood's taken away and used as a biofuel feedstock, and the roots sprout and it grows again. Typically for 30 years you can have this cycle. So it's a low input cycle, and it also helps to restore degraded land, because you get, throughout the year, you get the leaf fall, you get the interaction of the roots with the soil, and these systems can help to restore degraded land. So the context, currently in the UK we have 5,500 hectares of SRC willow. Out to the future, it's looking like this crop is going to be used a lot more. 350,000 hectares by 2020 are available with no impact on food supply. And studies from a PhD student of Gale's earlier have shown we actually in England alone have 1 million hectares of land available for this crop as a biofuel feedstock. A recent publication by DEC last month, the Bioenergy Strategy, has shown to not use biomass could cost the UK energy market 44 billion. So the model, I've tested the model on the 7 intensively studied sites in the UK where the soils data and climate data are all measured. I've used those as inputs to the simulation model to replicate the yield. And here you can see across these 7 sites for willow, here's the measured yield data and here's the model yield data. The model works very well for willow. Another SRC, short rotation coppice crop for bioenergy, often used in Italy, is poplar. So I've reparameterized the model for poplar, which was also grown at these 7 sites, and again, the model fits very well to measure yield data. So these 7 sites, the model works very well. Extrapolating that out to the future and into the wider context of the whole UK, there's a further 18 sites of SRC willow and poplar from our collaboration with Forest Research, where yield were measured. So I've tested the model against these further 18 sites across the UK. And in upscaling the model, I could no longer use exact soils data and climate data. I had to take these data from spatial maps of the UK and climate projections. But the model works very well in this upscaled mode when evaluated against these further 18 sites, which is the largest evaluation of such a model in the UK. So the model predicted willow yields well across the whole UK against these sites. Current mean yields in the UK are 9 oven-dried tonnes per hectare per year, with a range between 0.9 and 21. Out to the future, using projections of climate change from the UK SIP scenarios, a low, a medium and a high emission scenario out to 2050, we don't actually see much change in this yield distribution. For example, this blue line, they all peak around, this axis is area, number of kilometres squared, and that's yield. They're all peaking around 9 oven-dried tonnes per hectare per year. And if we look as yield goes up, there's a few areas, about 4,000 kilometres squared, of higher yield under the high emission scenario, with higher CO2 as a fertilisation for yields. So to summarise, this is the first process-based model simulations of SRC in the UK with a multi-site evaluation, 25 sites overall, and these data are provided to greenhouse gas and economic models to inform future planting scenarios.
Thank you, Matthew. The next talk is by Vibrational, more efficient bioethanol from poplar wood.
Sorry. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about getting more efficient bioethanol from poplar wood. So our first question is, what is bioethanol? So bioethanol is a liquid transport fuel which is not derived from fossil fuels. So the first stage in obtaining bioethanol is by the fixation of the light energy by a vast range of crops. These crops are then harvested and pre-processing occurs, and then the enzymes break down the cellulose of the crops, and then this releases the sugars, which are then put to microbes to ferment the sugars into ethanol, and then from this we can get a vast array of biofuels such as bioethanol and biodiesel, which ultimately the aim is to make it carbon neutral. However, in the production of biofuels, there are 4 bottlenecks. Our first one is how we can maximise the capture of this light energy, and also how we can create trees and crops which can grow on poor quality soils with low resources and low water. We also have a bottleneck caused at the pre-processing due to the costs and the monosaccharide extraction. The bottleneck which we work on in our lab is in particular how we can break down the plant cell wall to release the cellulose to get the sugars and then ferment these onto the ethanol. And also there's the final bottleneck which is maintaining this as carbon neutral. So there is still a lot of concerns around bioenergy, such as the greenhouse gas balance, biodiversity, loss of species. These all need to be taken into consideration during our work. So there's still pretty much a biofuel's good or a biofuel's bad. As I mentioned, we work with poplar, and the poplar is grown on poor soils and it doesn't compete with crop plants. So in the lab we focus on a process called saccharification, which is the breakdown of the lignocellulosic biomass of the plant, which is initially fixed with the photosynthesis, and we're trying to optimise the release, optimise the breakdown. So our main aim is to maximise ethanol release but minimise the environmental and economic costs. And we focus on looking at the plant cell wall and the genes that underlie saccharification. So we work with poplar as the bioenergy tree because it's got its full genome sequence, it's got a small genome, there's diversity of species, it's fast growing, which makes it good for our research. There's clonal propagation, which also aids when we're trying to transform plants, and it has these transformation systems. So we have a vast array of genetic knowledge that we can use when we're working with poplar. So our main aim, with all the genetic knowledge that we have, is to, through molecular breeding, is to breed trees which have a more efficient sugar release for the bioethanol production. And we can do this by using microarray analysis, which gives us whole genome profiling, and we can look at individual genes which we may think will be contributing to a high saccharification potential. then we can take these genes and we can potentially transform poplar with these genes and see if that increases our saccharification potential and therefore releasing our sugars more easily. So the main aim of our work is to eliminate one of the bottlenecks in the bioethanol production.
Thank you. Very good. The next talk is from to tell us about FP7 anesthesia.
Hi, I've just started my postdoc in the high voltage lab, and I'm working on the FP7 project called Anastasia. Anastasia stands for Advanced. I did learn this, by the way. Advanced nanostructured. Oh, forgot it. Doesn't matter. Essentially, it's got about £3 million worth of EU funding, and we're looking at how we can improve the insulation systems for electrotechnical applications such as generators and motors. There are 9 members in the consortium that work on this project. This includes some end users, some manufacturers of tapes and insulation systems, and 4 academic research centres which help to develop these new materials. The basic premise is that we want to improve the efficiency of these materials, because so far the efficiency of generators is dependent on the components that make them up. Currently we use mica tape such as this wrapped around the stator bars which go into the turbines used in power stations. This mica tape, this insulation system is the efficiency of these systems is very dependent on the thermal and electrical properties of the tapes used. The tapes that we use currently are they're not very state-of-the-art at the moment, because generators are supposed to last for about 40 years, and at the moment they're just not up to standard with the current materials that we use. They're very well established, but they're not very good. Just to put it into scale, if we increase the efficiency of these materials by 0.2%, then it will increase the energy saving that will occur because of that is equivalent to 1 nuclear power station. If nuclear power isn't a thing, 10 fossil fuel power stations, which is the equivalent of 1.5 billion euros. So it's quite a lot of money saving here. The tapes that are used in these insulations, they're based on a layered structure. So we've got glass fibre carrier tape there, and then on top of that we have a mica layer, a layer of mica paper which is co-laminated onto the glass fibre. And this is then vacuum impregnated in an epoxy resin. This structure, because of the many layers, each layer or each interface in the layers acts as a thermal barrier, which isn't very good because it causes the system to heat up, and it needs rather large energy-consuming cooling systems. Also, as well as this, with each layer, it causes we've got the opportunity for more voids and sources of partial discharges that occur, which we don't want in these things. So the Anastasia project aims to improve the efficiency by improving the homogeneity of these materials and by using high-performance materials, and we can improve the system. One of the things that we try to do is by using nanofillers into resins in this mica layer. So we've got the mica flakes there, and then we add the nanoparticles in. This helps to improve the breakdown strength of the insulation, as well as improving the thermal conductivity. By doing this allows us to have a much thinner tape. Previously, with the old system, the amount of mica that we need to use to create an effective potential discharge barrier is about 1 millimetre. With the new system, we can use much thinner, more flexible tapes. The project is in its final stages at the moment, so we're currently doing testing on the final products. We're producing several patents, and we've got many, many papers on the subject.
Thank you.
And finally, to finish off, we have Lindsay to tell us about introducing carbon capture and sequestration to the university.
Thank you. So, my name is Maria Armstrong. I'm a research fellow in the Faculty of Engineering and the Environment. And what I'm wanting to sort of do is try to set up a group looking at carbon capturing technologies. And we don't seem to have a specifically dedicated group at the moment. So, what is it? Carbon capture basically involves the extraction of CO2 from emissions in order to store them somewhere other than in the atmosphere. So, with all the research carrying out trying to find a technology that is other than what that can produce cleaner emissions, yet maintain. We need to consider that the level of energy that we produce as a global community needs to still produce levels as what we need. However, the IPCC, which is the International Panel for Climate Change, recognises that CO2 extraction is considered the future mitigating method for climate change, particularly methods where we can adapt them to already used industrial processes. But a lot of research needs to be carried out in these processes to try to make them more efficient and more cheaper before we can make it a long-term solution. So, with regards to global warming, there are already some key indicators that the global temperature is increasing, which has decreasing sea ice, glaciers, snow cover, increasing land temperature, sea temperature, humidity, etc. So if we consider the past 650,000 years, looking at the CO2 levels extracted from ice in the Earth cap, we can see the different cycles that have taken place. For example, down here, the ice ages, but we suddenly shoot up in these recent years above the average level that's taken place over that duration. And as we can see from here, it's mainly since the introduction of the Industrial Revolution. So why do we need to try to find a way to cap what we are doing as a contribution to CO2 levels. So what about different types of technologies? There are 3 types of technologies: post-combustion, pre-combustion, and oxy-fuel combustion. So post-combustion takes place after the energy production has taken place. So the preferred method usually across industry is alien absorption, and this is where flue gas is countercurrently mixed with a solution called ammonia, which captures the CO2, takes it to a stripper reactor where heat is then used to release the CO2 ready for storage. A membrane absorption is a special membrane which acts as a semi-permeable barrier, which has special pores to allow for specific compounds to travel through based on different pressure differences. Adsorption techniques, they are where CO2 adheres to a special solid material, known as zeolite, and then under other temperatures, pressure conditions, then releases the CO2 again. Another method as well is also cryogenically freezing the CO2, but the list goes on. Pre-combustion is when occurs just before power generation. So the fuel is gasified to release hydrogen and carbon monoxide. Hydrogen is taken off the power source, whereas the carbon monoxide is taken to a shift conversion process where water is added to produce more hydrogen and carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is then stored, compressed and stored. Finally, oxy-fuel combustion is where combustion takes place with just oxygen producing water, and carbon dioxide is then condensated and stored. What to do with it? There are 3 types of ways. The biosphere sinks, which are natural reservoirs, ocean, sea, soils. Geosphere sinks, which occur naturally, but we need anthropogenic means to get there, so depleted oil reservoirs. Material sinks, which are carbon-based materials such as plastic and chemicals. Finally, what we're doing, we currently have a PhD and myself looking at alien absorption technologies. We have 4 papers in pre-combustion, 2 in post-combustion. We've recently received $750,000 from EPSLC to carry out a 4-year project in computational and experimental to develop a carbon capture lab. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. So before I bring the session to a close, I think Kate's got a few announcements to make, but I'd like to thank all the speakers in this session already. I think it's a very good show and we learned a lot. And also maybe take this opportunity to thank all our speakers and hosting our speakers.